The story of Lisa Holm is a haunting case that sent shockwaves through Sweden and captured international attention. A young girl with a bright future vanished without a trace, leaving her family and an entire nation in anguish. What began as a routine evening commute from work quickly spiraled into one of the largest and most intense search operations in Sweden's modern history. Thousands of volunteers and law enforcement officers rallied together in a desperate bid to find her. As clues surfaced, a chilling picture began to form, unraveling the grim fate that had befallen Lisa. This case not only highlighted the power of community efforts, but also revealed the dark and sinister actions of a killer hiding in plain sight. What really happened to Lisa Holm? And how did the relentless pursuit of justice finally uncover the truth? Stay with us as we delve into this tragic case that continues to resonate deeply with all who hear it. Lisa Holm, born on February 7, 1998, in a serene Swedish town, grew up surrounded by love and tranquility. Known for her kind heart, positivity, and determination, Lisa was a bright young girl with dreams of studying architecture in Australia, a goal she set for herself even before finishing school. She loved traveling and often accompanied her parents on trips to different countries, which fueled her ambition and broadened her horizons. By the summer of 2015, at the age of 17, Lisa was already proving her independence. She had taken on part-time jobs during her teenage years and recently secured her first serious position at a cafe located 40 minutes from her home. While the job was challenging, Lisa embraced it enthusiastically, proud of her growing independence and ability to support herself. Lisa lived with her parents and older sister in a peaceful, tight-knit community. Her father, a devoted and protective figure in her life, played an essential role in helping her transition to adulthood. When Lisa started working at the cafe, he drove her there and back each weekend, ensuring she was safe. Lisa's life, full of promise and awe, was about to take a devastating turn, forever changing her family's world and leaving an indelible mark on Sweden's history. As Lisa gained confidence riding in her scooter, her father finally allowed her to commute to the cafe on her own. The gift of the scooter symbolized a new chapter in Lisa's life, marking her growing independence. However, her father, ever the protective parent, remained cautious. For weeks, he accompanied her on the route, ensuring she was comfortable navigating the roads. By early June 2015, he felt reassured enough to let her make the trip alone. June 7, 2015 began like any other weekend workday for Lisa. The cafe where she worked was bustling with customers, and Lisa was busy managing her responsibilities. Around midday, her parents decided to visit her at the cafe, sharing a meal and a brief moment together. It was a small but cherished family tradition, and Lisa seemed her usual cheerful self. After lunch, her parents returned home, leaving Lisa to finish her shift. Neither could have imagined it would be the last time they saw her alive. Lisa's day at work continued as normal. By the end of her shift, she tidied up and prepared to leave for home. At 6:23 p.m., she texted her father, "Leaving now." It was her first solo trip back, and her father trusted she would manage fine. Just 3 minutes later, at 6:26 p.m., Lisa's father received an unexpected call from her number. When he answered, there was no response. Instead, he heard faint background noises, indistinct voices, and, most unsettlingly, the sound of a car door slamming shut. Thinking it might have been an accidental call, her father repeatedly called out Lisa's name, but no one answered. The line eventually disconnected, leaving him with a vague sense of unease. He tried to shake it off, reasoning that Lisa might be chatting with colleagues as she prepared to leave, but an uneasy feeling lingered. As time passed and Lisa failed to arrive home, worry began to settle in. Her father, already uneasy from the earlier call, knew something wasn't right. This was unlike Lisa, who was dependable and quick to inform her family if she was delayed. With every passing moment, the unease deepened, setting the stage for a night of desperate searching that would lead to unimaginable heartbreak. As the evening wore on and Lisa Holm failed to return home, her father's initial concern turned to alarm. At first, he thought she might have encountered trouble with her scooter or gotten delayed. Determined to find her, he set out to trace the route she would have taken from the cafe to their house. Driving slowly, he scanned every corner of the road, looking for any sign of an accident or anything that could explain why she hadn't arrived home. The trip, however, revealed nothing. No sign of Lisa, no fallen scooter, no indication of where she might be. His unease grew heavier as he approached the cafe. When he pulled into the parking lot, his heart dropped. There was Lisa's scooter, parked neatly as though she had never left. Her helmet hung from the handlebars, and the keys were still in the ignition. This discovery was not reassuring. It was deeply unsettling. Lisa would never have left her scooter like this, and the sight immediately raised the alarm that something was terribly wrong. Desperately, her father searched the cafe and its surroundings. He walked through the building calling her name, but there was no response. The cafe was completely empty, adding to his panic. Hoping for answers, Lisa's mother called the cafe owner, who quickly rushed to the scene. The owner, now equally concerned, gathered several friends who lived nearby to assist in the search. Together, the small group began combing the parking lot, nearby fields, and wooded areas, hoping to find some clue to Lisa's whereabouts. As they scoured the area, Lisa's mother and older sister decided to check the bus stop in their hometown. Perhaps Lisa, for reasons unknown, had taken the bus instead of riding her scooter. The family's hopes rose briefly, but when the bus arrived, Lisa was not on board. The passengers disembarking had no information, and no one had seen a girl matching Lisa's description. By now it was late, and darkness had fallen over the town. The family realized this was no ordinary delay. Lisa was truly missing. At this point, they contacted the police, who responded immediately. A disappearance like this was highly unusual in their quiet and safe community, and authorities understood the urgency of the situation. The initial police efforts were extensive. Officers brought in tracking dogs and deployed search teams to nearby fields and wooded areas. Investigators knocked on doors in the area surrounding the cafe, questioning residents for any signs of unusual activity. However, the initial search yielded no answers. News of Lisa's disappearance spread rapidly through the community, and her friends and classmates took to social media, sharing photos and information. Their posts were shared widely, quickly gaining national attention. By the next morning, hundreds of volunteers had arrived to join the search. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers rallied together, determined to help find the missing teenager. The search continued to grow, becoming the largest search operation in Sweden's modern history. Over 1,000 volunteers, some traveling from distant towns, poured into the area, searching fields, forests, ditches, and roads. Teams worked in shifts to ensure the effort was continuous. Local organizations provided food, water, and other supplies to keep the searchers going. The sheer scale of the operation reflected the unity and determination of the community to find Lisa and bring her home. Despite the extraordinary effort and coordination, there was still no sign of Lisa. As hours turned to days, hope began to waver, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Clues started to emerge, suggesting that Lisa's disappearance was not just a case of getting lost or a simple accident. Something far more sinister had happened, and the search for a missing teenager began to turn into the hunt for the truth behind a terrible crime. The search for Lisa Holm, initially filled with hope, began uncovering disturbing clues that hinted at a tragic end. On the second day of the operation, volunteers searching the area around the cafe discovered personal items scattered along a dirt road about 300 meters away. Among these were Lisa's phone case, a receipt, a ticket, and pieces of her broken smartphone screen. The trail of belongings appeared as if they had been deliberately discarded, leading investigators to suspect Lisa had been taken along this road by her abductor. The dirt road eventually brought searchers to a barn directly across from the cafe, a location that quickly became a focal point of the investigation. A worker at the barn reported finding a motorcycle glove on the floor. Police immediately showed the glove to Lisa's parents, who confirmed it belonged to their daughter. The barn was thoroughly examined, and while it initially yielded no significant leads, additional searches soon revealed more unsettling findings. Forensic experts discovered a pair of earrings near the floor, later identified as Lisa's. Nearby, they came across a curious and disturbing clue: human feces. While it might have seemed unrelated at first, forensic specialists suggested that the feces could have been left by the perpetrator in a moment of intense adrenaline-fueled stress. Adrenaline surges during crimes can sometimes cause individuals to lose control of their bodily functions. This strange clue, combined with Lisa's glove and earrings, led police to strongly suspect that she had been brought to the barn after her abduction. The investigation gained momentum as search efforts expanded to surrounding areas. On a farm about 2 miles from the cafe, volunteers noticed an abandoned trailer tucked away behind tall grass. Its appearance suggested it had not been used in years, but the flattened grass around it indicated recent activity. Investigators, sensing its importance, forced the trailer's rusted door open. Inside, they were met with a foul, unmistakable odor of decay. The trailer contained several old lockers, previously used as storage for workers' belongings. Most of the lockers were sealed shut, except for one that was slightly ajar. Hidden behind a pile of old clothes and rags was Lisa's lifeless body. The scene was harrowing. Lisa had been strangled with a rope, which was still around her neck. Her head was tightly wrapped in tape, and her clothing was disheveled, with her pants pulled down and her shirt pushed up. While the state of her clothing suggested the possibility of sexual assault, forensic analysis later confirmed that no such act had occurred. Forensic specialists began carefully documenting the crime scene. The rope used to strangle Lisa was a key piece of evidence, as were traces of DNA found on her clothing and the tape. Investigators hypothesized that Lisa had been killed elsewhere, likely at the barn, and her body was later moved to the trailer. As news of Lisa's death broke, the community was overcome with grief. The case, which had gripped Sweden as a desperate search for a missing teenager, had now turned into a murder investigation. The discovery of Lisa's body, coupled with the growing body of evidence, pointed to a carefully planned and heinous crime. Investigators were now focused on piecing together Lisa's final moments and uncovering the identity of the person responsible for her tragic death. As the search for Lisa Holm turned into a murder investigation, the police zeroed in on three individuals who lived and worked near the crime scenes: Nerijus Bilavicius, his younger brother, and Nerijus's wife. They were Lithuanian immigrants living in a modest house along the same dirt road where Lisa's belongings had been discovered. The brothers worked in the barn near the café and at the farm where Lisa's body was eventually found, tying them directly to the locations that had become central to the case. Initially, Nerijus presented himself as an ordinary worker, cooperative and seemingly concerned about the tragic events unfolding in the community. When questioned, he calmly claimed that he had been at home on the evening of Lisa's disappearance, asleep until around 8 p.m., when he left briefly to buy cigarettes and pizza at a nearby gas station. His wife and younger brother supported this story, offering a united front in his defense. But as the investigators began to piece together evidence, the cracks in this facade became glaringly obvious. Forensic experts meticulously combed through the barn, the trailer where Lisa's body was found, and the surrounding areas. What they uncovered painted a grim and damning picture of Nerijus's involvement. The first blow to Nerijus's claims came when DNA testing revealed traces of his DNA on Lisa's clothing, including her jacket and underwear. This evidence was impossible to explain away. It suggested direct contact with Lisa during the hours of her disappearance. The rope used to strangle Lisa provided further proof. Forensic tests confirmed it carried both Lisa's DNA and Nerijus's, tying him directly to the murder weapon. Additionally, a matching piece of the rope was discovered in the barn, linking the crime scene to where Nerijus worked. The barn itself became a haunting site of discovery. In an observation room overlooking the cafe, investigators found male bodily fluids on the walls and floor. These samples, tested multiple times for accuracy, were confirmed to belong to Nerijus. This room, with its large window, had given him a clear view of the cafe's employees, including Lisa. It was here, detectives theorized, that he had fixated on her over time. Another chilling clue was found in the same barn: human feces, left in a corner of the floor. Though seemingly unrelated at first, forensic experts matched the DNA to Nerijus. Psychologists assisting the case explained that such behavior could result from the overwhelming adrenaline rush during or immediately after committing a violent crime, further implicating him in the horrific events. Witness testimonies added weight to the mounting evidence. A jogger who had been running near the cafe on the day of Lisa's disappearance recalled being stopped by a man who matched Nerijus's description. Speaking in English, he had asked for directions to a place she didn't recognize. When she offered to show him using her phone, he insisted she get into his car to help with his GPS. Feeling uneasy, she refused and quickly ran away. Other witnesses reported seeing a car resembling Nerijus's vehicle driving near the cafe during the critical hours of Lisa's disappearance. This directly contradicted his claim that he had been at home the entire evening. Nerijus's alibi initially seemed airtight. His wife and younger brother both vouched for him, stating he had been home and asleep until he left for a brief errand. But under mounting pressure from investigators, the younger brother finally broke. He admitted that Nerijus had not been home for several hours during the critical time frame. He confessed that Nerejus had returned late that evening, covered in dirt and acting strangely. He also revealed that when police first arrived to question them, Nerejus had whispered to him, "Tell them I was home." This admission shattered Nerejus's alibi and exposed the lengths to which he and his family had gone to cover up his actions. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Nerejus continued to maintain his innocence. His lawyer attempted to argue that the DNA found in the barn and on Lisa's clothing could have been transferred accidentally due to his work in those locations. However, this argument crumbled under scrutiny, particularly in the case of the DNA found inside Lisa's underwear and on the rope used to strangle her. The case against Nerejus Bilavicius was now undeniable. The evidence told a harrowing story, that of a man who had watched Lisa from afar, plotted his attack, and taken her life in a calculated and horrific act of violence. His attempt to hide behind lies and fabricated alibis had failed, and the truth of his actions had come to light. As the evidence mounted, the community that had rallied so valiantly to find Lisa was left reeling. What had started as a desperate search for a missing teenager had turned into a grim revelation of a heinous crime. Lisa's family, who had clung to hope for her safe return, now had to face the unbearable reality of her loss. The air of unity and hope that had driven the search was now replaced by grief and a burning demand for justice. The nation watched as the net closed around Nerejus, knowing that his conviction would not bring Lisa back, but would at least ensure he could never harm anyone else. For the investigators and prosecutors, it was now a matter of ensuring that every piece of evidence was irrefutable. They built an airtight case, driven not just by their professional duty, but by the memory of Lisa, a young woman whose life had been stolen far too soon. As the trial approached, the pieces of the puzzle came together, and Nerejus's lies lay in ruins, unable to withstand the weight of the truth. The road to justice was long and filled with heartbreak, but Lisa's story had to be told, her voice carried forward by those who loved her and the community that refused to let her memory fade. The trial of Nerejus Bilavicius began 4 months after Lisa Holm's murder, drawing intense public attention across Sweden. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence against him, including DNA found on Lisa's clothing, the rope used to strangle her, and traces of bodily fluids in the barn's observation room where he had been watching the café. Witness testimonies placed his car near the café at critical times, and his younger brother's confession dismantled the false alibi that Nerejus had constructed with his family. In court, Nerejus maintained his innocence, claiming that his DNA in the barn was a result of his work there and arguing that any DNA on Lisa's clothing could have been transferred indirectly. His lawyer even attempted to suggest the possibility of evidence tampering by Nerejus's brother, but these claims were dismissed as implausible. The presence of Nerejus's DNA inside Lisa's underwear and on the murder weapon was undeniable and could only be explained by direct contact during the crime. After a month-long trial, Nerejus Bilavicius was convicted of Lisa Holm's murder and sentenced to life imprisonment in Sweden. The verdict was a rare and severe sentence in a country known for its leniency, reflecting the horrific nature of the crime. For Lisa's family and the nation, the conviction brought some measure of closure, though the pain of losing Lisa could never be erased. In 2017, Nerejus requested a transfer to a Lithuanian prison, seeking to be closer to his homeland. Swedish authorities approved the transfer, but his decision came with severe consequences. Lithuanian prisons were far harsher than the comparatively humane Swedish system. While in Lithuania, Nerejus attempted to appeal his life sentence, and for a brief period it was reduced to 15 years. However, this decision was overturned, reinstating his life imprisonment. 5 years after his transfer, in August 2022, Nerejus met a violent end in the Lithuanian prison system. During a routine transfer of inmates between blocks, he was attacked by another prisoner wielding a makeshift weapon. The attack left Nerejus with critical injuries, and he died while being transported to the hospital. The death of Nerejus Bilavicius marked the end of a dark chapter in the aftermath of Lisa Holm's murder. While justice had been served in court, the pain and loss endured by Lisa's family and loved ones remained immeasurable. Her case continues to stand as a solemn reminder of the importance of perseverance in the pursuit of justice. The murder of Lisa Holm sent shockwaves through Sweden, a country known for its low rates of violent crime. Her tragic story brought attention to the vulnerabilities that can exist even in peaceful and close-knit communities. It forced a nation to confront the stark reality that such horrific acts could happen anywhere and to anyone. At the same time, the case showcased the extraordinary power of community mobilization. Over 1,000 volunteers from across Sweden joined the largest search operation in the country's modern history, demonstrating solidarity and determination in the face of tragedy. Their efforts underscored the importance of collective action in the search for justice and closure. Despite the conviction of Neregius Bilavicius, lingering questions remain about the possible involvement of his wife and younger brother. Although no direct evidence implicated them in the abduction or murder, their roles in providing false alibis raised doubts about whether they knew more than they admitted. These unanswered questions continue to add complexity to an already harrowing case. Lisa Holm's case stands as a painful reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of violence. While justice was ultimately served with the conviction of her murderer, it came at the unbearable cost of a young, promising life full of dreams and potential. This story is a call to action for communities to remain vigilant, proactive, and united in efforts to prevent such tragedies from recurring. By staying alert and supporting search and safety initiatives, we can honor Lisa's memory and protect others from similar fates. If you found this story meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share to ensure more people hear Lisa's story and understand the importance of coming together in times of need. Let us keep her memory alive and continue striving for a safer world.